Robert Plank Show, episode 183: Scale, Build Your Team, and Outsource Remote Workers with Nathan Hirsch. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, where we talk about building an online business and making money. We're talking with Nathan Hirsch, and he's a serial entrepreneur and expert in remote hiring and e-commerce. He's the founder and CEO of FreeUp.com and the co-founder and CEO of Portlight. Nathan has shared his e-commerce career on the Amazon Marketplace and successfully built a $7 million business within 4 years. Now, after seeing the potential of using remote workers within his first business, Nathan founded FreeUp to make the remote hiring experience simpler for all e-commerce business owners. FreeUp now provides reliable e-commerce workers to hundreds of clients around the world, and Nathan is an expert at building efficient systems and processes, sales strategies, and business management. He currently lives in Orlando, Florida. Mr. Nathan, how are things today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Super fantastic, better than ever, and excited to talk about these two things: serial entrepreneurship and e-commerce. So, can you kind of tell us how you got started and what happened there?
Yeah, I've kind of had an interesting ride that I feel like I stumbled upon by accident. I was back in 2007-ish. I was a broke college student looking to make a little extra beer money on the side, and I had all these textbooks that I was spending hundreds of dollars on, selling them back for pennies at the end of the semester. I got pretty pissed at the bookstore, and I saw my friends getting ripped off too. So I was like, all right, I'll start my own mini business and try to cut out the bookstore. And it ended up going really well. I would buy everyone's textbooks back at the end of the semester, hold on to them, sell them again at the beginning of the next semester. And I did that for a few semesters and made a good amount of money on the side. And from there, books led me to Amazon, because back then Amazon was mostly a bookstore and they were just getting into selling other products. And what I did is I learned that you can sell a lot more than just books on Amazon. And back then, or actually right now, if you go and you find a Barbie or a Lego or whatever it is on Amazon, there's 100 sellers. When I first started, there were only 2 or 3 different people, and I was one of them. So I really got in at the beginning. And from there, I got really into the drop shipping model, because I hated carrying around textbooks all day. So I wanted a different way where I didn't actually have to touch the product. So I built this huge drop shipping business out of my college dorm room, where I had college students filling orders and answering customer emails, sending products from different retailers and manufacturers that we weren't actually touching. So that's kind of how I started my first business and got into being an entrepreneur and being a boss and hiring people, and that whole aspect of my life.
And that's cool. And there's a lot of little things that are really interesting about at that story. And I mean, the first thing that I'm kind of hearing, as far as the business that you set up and the need that you served, you kind of just sort of like filled the gap and cut out the middleman. And if you think about a lot of the big huge startups now, like you think about like your Uber or your Airbnb type of companies, like they're kind of having the same sort of thought process, right? Like the existing model or the existing way of going about things. And in your case, it was, buying these, $200, $300 college textbooks and having to sell them back for, $10. And so you looked at that and said, well, the current system is broken, and let me figure out a better way by sort of cutting out the middleman. And the other thing that I'm hearing for you doing this business and you doing the drop shipping stuff, like there's something to sort of getting there early, right? And I mean, like you said, like the Amazon e-commerce thing is really huge and really big now and built up, but then the price you pay for that is that now it's super crowded. And so there's definitely, it sounds like there's something to getting there early, where the whatever marketplace you're playing in maybe is not proven yet and maybe is kind of the Wild West. But if you get there early and you figure out some of the kinks of the system out yourself, then you can get there before it's super crowded there.
I agree. And there's really 2 ways to go about building a business. You either learn from other people and you try to copy them, which ends up like what you said, and you end up in a very crowded industry, and there isn't always enough cash to go around. Or you look and you try to target a business that, yes, that business makes money, but does it actually make the customer happy? And like you mentioned, Uber, people have been using taxis for years, but have you ever heard someone is like, I love that taxi ride, it was awesome. No one was having that experience. And the same thing with bookstores. Everyone needed to buy books. But no one liked the bookstores. They always thought like they were getting ripped off, that they weren't getting their money back at the end. So if you can identify businesses that people have to use or that use a lot but aren't making the end consumer happy, that's a really good place to go in and make change.
I like that, and there's so many examples of that, especially like I mean Google right now is trying to put the cell phone companies out of business. So I like your mindset about that, and I like the way that that's sort of your criteria is something where everyone uses it, so it's proven, but the customers are unhappy, which means that it's about to kind of reach a tipping point, or it's about to change, or some change has to happen, and you can be the person who kind of swoops in and does that.
Yeah, and you can look at it both sides. I mean, customer service is my background before starting my business was in customer service, which gave me a huge advantage, especially on Amazon. But if you're starting a business, make sure customer service is your core because if you're not making your end customer happy, eventually someone else is going to find a way to do it.
Right. And the other thing that I heard about that story that you had there is that, well, at first it sounds like it was all you, right? And then you took on some people and then you kind of scaled it from there. And what it reminded me of was like when Jeff Bezos was first starting Amazon, he would literally take books and packages and things, and he would take the packages to the post office himself. And so there's something to that, right? There's something to you being like the employee and you doing all these things, and then once it kind of maxes out your time, then it becomes time to go in and bring more people on.
Yeah, for the first few semesters that I was doing textbooks, I was the one carrying the book, selling them back, handling all the money and the transactions. For the first year or so doing my Amazon dropship business, I was filling every order, answering every email, creating the processes and systems. And when, well, he wasn't a friend of mine at the time, but a guy in one of my classes Facebook messaged me being like, "Hey, I need a job. I heard you have this business. I have no idea what you do, but I'd love to be involved." His name's Connor Gillivan, and he's been my business partner for 8 years. He really got involved by accident on that point and really helped me grow the business and take it to the next level after I had already done everything myself. And because I had done the customer service and the orders and the finding retailers and manufacturers and every part of the business, it just makes it that much easier to train other people to do it and surround yourself by people who are the opposite of you that can take what you've built so far and take it to the next level in a way that you can't do.
Right, and I like your thought process on that. And so, I mean, what do you think about? So, do you have any kind of set? Uh, I don't know how to even like explain this, but do you have a set like period of time or something, or like a trial period where if you're making a new business, like how do you decide like how much of it to do yourself, and how do you decide how long to do it yourself until you begin looking into bringing other people in?
It's tough, and there isn't an exact formula. And I have a lot of so my new company, FreeUp, which we'll talk about in a little while, offers kind of like those lower level and upper level workers. But my point in this conversation is you can be a business that maybe you found it in a certain industry, and you do hire those high end consultants to take it to the next level. Or you can be the kind of person that I am that is more, I guess, frugal and creates every single system himself or herself, and then puts cheaper, more strategic people in place to kind of follow your directions and your processes. And I know a lot of people who have had success in both ways. I'm more of the mentality that I need to get to a large point where I'm doing over $1 million in sales a year before I'm hiring these consultants to really take me to the next level because I want to prove it to myself, prove that my clients or my customers actually want to buy the product, that the systems work, that the customer service is there, and put smaller people in place and the bigger people later. But I do work with a lot of clients who do it a little bit backwards. They have the extra cash or the funding or whatever it is, and they want to scale their business faster and take on more risk, in my opinion, and hire those larger level consultants or talented people up front.
And how would someone decide on which way of like building it up versus replacing yourself? I mean, is it the is it a factor of if they have the money to spend, like you mentioned, or is it like more of a personality kind of decision, or like how would someone decide if they want to go that path or your path?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of what the business is and what industry it is in, a combination of the skills, and then a combination of, like you said, the cash or the funding or whatever is backing it. And it really depends on, I guess, the process that you need to put in place to get to the end and the calculated risks involved. I mean, are you someone like when I was starting my first business, I really didn't have any risk. Worst case scenario, I'm a broke college student. I get a little bit broker and I go out and get a real job. But if you're a family man who has a wife and kid depending on you, are you really going to take that huge risk and hire all these top-notch consultants on an idea that you haven't really proven yet? In my opinion, no. You would want to go out and sell, 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 and make sure that whatever you're selling, the product, the service is actually selling before you invest into it. If you're someone that you are a serial entrepreneur and you come up with what you think is the next great idea and you don't want to spend the next 2 to 3 years trying to prove the idea, maybe you invest more money in up front to try to accelerate it faster. So it really depends on where you are in life and what your skill sets are.
And that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, if someone tends to be younger and more cash strapped, then that's one option. But then if they're older and they have more of that leverage and they're willing to also take more of the risk, then they can just kind of figure out like where they fit into that.
Yeah, and it's never a black and white area. There's always a gray area. I have a lot of people that do a combination of both. It's also a personal decision too of how quickly you want to try to accelerate your business and how much risk you're willing to take on.
Makes a lot of sense. And so, as far as the textbook business that you built, I mean, is that still going on, or what did that turn into?
It's not going on. I actually got out of that right when I started my Amazon store because my Amazon store became profitable. And I also thought at the time that textbooks were going to go out of business because of all the ebooks. And that hasn't really happened yet, which I'm a little confused on how that hasn't happened yet. But I do think that, like, I mean, if I was starting a new business, I wouldn't get into the textbook industry. I think that one day it's going to go away. But I got rid of it because I didn't like logging around big textbooks. Dropship model was way more efficient. It was doing better, and I didn't see a future with textbooks.
Okay, so that led to the drop shipping, and so how did that grow?
Sure. So I added some awesome people to the team. I surrounded myself with a bunch of people I found in college. I actually hired my first person before I was legally able to drink. So that was interesting. Made a lot of good hires, bad hires. Led me to when I graduated, I had a pretty significant business. I also had an internship that I kept along the way with Firestone that I had a job offer for. So I kind of had to decide, do I go the corporate route, the reason that I went to college, or do I go the entrepreneurial route? And in my mind, I'm all about calculated risk. So I was like, if this business is doing well, why not pursue it? I can always go back and apply for jobs later on, and I was still young. So I moved down to Florida with Connor and my other business partner, continued to grow this business, ended up getting an office, hiring full-time employees. And a buddy of mine told me about Upwork, which was called Odesk at the time, and I became obsessed with it. I wanted to build an Odesk army. And the reason I became obsessed with it wasn't just about the cheap labor, it was about efficiency. If I was paying someone $50,000 a year and they were spending 25% of their time doing data entry work or easy work that could be done by someone cheaper, to me that was a huge efficiency flaw, and I wanted to eliminate that as fast as possible. So I ended up building these huge remote armies to complement my full-time people and growing my Amazon business that way for years.
Cool, and yeah, and I'm kind of on the same page with you as far as the outsourcing thing, and what always worries me a lot with people who outsource or bring people on the team is they get super crazy and they're just hiring people just for the sake of it. And I'm kind of along the on the same page with you there. And so yeah, so what it used to be called was Odesk, and now it's called is Upwork. And so this is a site where anyone can hire people for any sort of like an hourly or per project task, right?
Yeah, and again, I kind of saw the efficiencies in that. I didn't love it. I liked the end result sometimes, but it was hit or miss. You make that really, let's say you make a bad hire, not only could it hurt your company, but you also have to factor in the time that you wasted interviewing those people, because I'm in the mindset of hire slowly, fire quickly. So if I'm spending all these time interviewing people, that's time I could be spending doing sales or other situations. Then you factor in training time that you put into them. And then at the end of the day, you still don't know if you're going to get a good hire. And then best case scenario, you've interviewed all these people, you put them through training, you get a really good hire, and then they put in their 2 weeks notice, and you're like, oh my God, I'm right back where I started. And that's the kind of thing that can set your startup and your business back months at a time. So that's when I really started getting the idea of FreeUp, my new company.
Cool. And so I mean, what is FreeUp? Is this just a matter of like you vetted these Upwork people really well, or like so what is this company?
Sure. So it's separate than Upwork. It's got nothing to do with Upwork. We've got So essentially, we get hundreds of applicants every week. We have a great interview process I created myself. We have 15 pages of communication guidelines our workers have to memorize and get tested on because we know how important communication is, or I know how important communication is. You could have the most talented person in the world, and if they can't communicate with you, and especially if they're not in the same building as you, it's going to be impossible for you to work together. So we vet all these people. We take the top 1%. We make them available to our clients on a first come, first serve basis. And then we offer these workers, we're not just an outsourcing company, we're a remote hiring company. So we have workers from $5 to $50 an hour, about 40% Philippines, 40% US, 20% scattered throughout the world. And for every skill set in online business or e-commerce, whether it's marketing, Amazon, eBay, graphic design, customer service, data entry, whatever it is, we have a US version and a non-US workers available. First come, first serve, like I said. Obviously, US people cost more. And my clients love it because once they're a client of mine, which is free, whenever a position opens up or they need a short-term project, they can request a worker, have a worker within minutes or hours because we're not a recruitment agency. It's not like you tell us what you need and we go find it. We already have these people. And one cool thing about us is not only are we hands-on to make sure you have a good experience with our workers because we're all about our clients and customer care, but we're insurance against turnover. And to me, that's the biggest thing. And turnover kills businesses. It's expensive. It can set you back months at a time. So our workers rarely quit because it's hard to get into our network. But if they do, we cover all retraining costs. We get you a new worker right away. And we make sure that you never take a step backwards for HR reasons. So that's really what we're all about, is saving our clients time on the front end and protecting them on the back end.
And that's awesome. And yeah, as you were describing all that, I mean, it kind of made me flash back a little bit to some of my adventures hiring someone. And I guess that on one hand, I knew some people who tried to recommend their guy to me, and their guy was the person that basically had the keys to everything. And I thought, well, I don't really trust one person in some other country, with all my passwords and things like that, or at least access to whatever kind of websites. And then on the other hand, I would go and hire people on Fiverr really quickly for like really quick jobs. But what I noticed with Fiverr in particular was I'd have to hire like two or three or four people just to get the one cover or the one result or whatever that I was hiring for. And then in the past I have used Odesk and Upwork, but then the problem with that was the exact hiring process that you described, where if I wanted to hire someone to be a transcriptionist, I would have to post the job and get about 50 or 100 applicants. I'd have to narrow it down to 20 and interview 10 and get it down to the top 3, and then next thing I know, it's 2 weeks later and I've spent maybe 5 or 10 hours just to hire the person. Just, I mean, now I'm at 10 hours put in just to be at zero, to now pay a person a monthly fee. And so it sounds like this free up service shortcuts all of that. Is that right?
Yeah, and I'm all about valuing your time. I mean, I hope you value your time in the hundreds. I know most of my clients do, and I do as well. I mean, if you take that situation and you were a client of FreeUp, you're like, Nathan, I need a transcriptionist. They need to be able to do this, and this. Within an hour, I'm like, here's a guy. This is a guy who my other clients have used for a long period of time. He's been in FreeUp. He's proven, and he just gets right to work, does the work for you. Let's say worst case scenario, he does a bad job or below par. I'm going to give you a credit for it. I'm going to be like, you know what? Here's another guy. And if we don't get it right the first time, which 99% of the time we do, we almost always get it right the second time. Unfortunately, freelancing isn't a one-size-fits-all industry, but we've gotten pretty good at it. So we kind of changed the experience from being that negative hassle, like, oh, crap, I have to hire someone again, to, okay, this is fast and easy. And now that I finished this project, let's focus on the next thing.
Right, and kind of relating back to our examples with your textbook thing or with Uber or whatever, the existing system of, for example, going to a Fiverr, going to an Upwork is something where everyone does it because they have to, but the experience is not great, and now you're kind of cutting out the middleman and having having the best of both worlds, basically, where you have these workers that are trained, that are good, and like you said, there's the turnover aspect, so that even if there's someone that kind of goes away for whatever reason, you can just switch that out for someone else. And so what really interests me is that you were kind of describing some of the skills that some of these that these workers have. And so it's not just the usual skills like, answer customer support tickets or transcriptionist, but it sounds like you have some really specialized skills, especially with like the e-commerce stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of divide it up into four things. You got business operations, e-commerce, marketing, and then web development. We don't do bookkeeping or coding. If you think of business operations, anything from data entry to research, Excel, writing, lead generation, translations, I would throw in there. If you move over to e-commerce, all the different marketplaces, whether it's Amazon, eBay, or smaller ones like Newegg, Sears, or Walmart, which is a big one, and then anything that goes along with those, customer service, listing, SEO, optimization, which is all different for different websites. And we have everyone from those lower level people that you can put into systems all the way up to top notch experts that have been selling for 15 years so that you can get expertise with no minimums, paying them at an hourly rate. And then if you move to marketing, you've got social media, which is a combination of management, content, and ads, graphic designers, Google AdWords, video editing, all that kind of stuff. And then web development, any kind of WordPress, WooCommerce, Shopify, Wix, and all that. And we'll hopefully get into coding next year, although hiring developers is a whole other animal. But that's really all the skill sets that we offer.
Awesome. So can you kind of walk me through like a case study or something where you had a client who had all these kinds of needs and you were able to just plug in these workers into their business for them?
Yeah, so there's actually a case study right on my website, freeup.com. A buddy of mine that was one of my first clients who gave me a shot when I was first starting FreeUp, Idan. And you can kind of view him from the beginning. He started a dropshipping Amazon business, which was very similar to what I did, which was almost the perfect client for me to start off with. And I slowly gave him people to change his pricing because if you know anything about Amazon, it's all about changing prices and getting the buy box. Inputted people into his customer care team so that he didn't have to answer every email and he could free up his time into finding additional products to sell and all that. I have top-notch consultants that are pretty much at his call whenever he needs them, whenever he runs into a funk or has an issue with any kind of FBA or anything like that. And then supported with other people like data entry people who can do more of the business specific tasks that are more relevant to his business, whether it's recording invoices or getting information to his bookkeeper, stuff like that. So he's got this great group of workers that all came from FreeUp that all do different tasks that help him not only free up his time, but the key to freeing up your time is to focus on sales and marketing because that's what it's all about.
Cool. So yeah, and it sounds like even like your thought process as far as all that stuff was you have the whole support system in place. So not just the data entry and not just all the like the price research and stuff, but even to the extent where if he got stuck, he'd have someone to talk to.
Exactly. And if you think of I have these big shot consultants, right? They make $50 an hour, 30 to $50 an hour, and they got their bigger clients who they're doing consistent work for. And then they'll also have smaller clients who might hire them for an hour here and an hour there. And they love it because they're getting constant work and we try to book them up as much as possible. But the other clients like it because they don't have to go out and hire a service with minimums. They can just use people when they need it. And obviously there's going to be different scheduling stuff and we try to make it work. And if that person's booked that week, we'll get them someone else. But it really works great for all parties.
I mean, yeah, it sure sounds like it. And so, as we're winding down this call, and if people are looking into doing more outsourcing, and maybe even people who might be headed your way, what's a big mistake that people are making with outsourcing that they should be avoiding?
Yeah, don't do one-on-one training unless you have some kind of training doc, some kind of YouTube videos, and you're just using that training as a fine tuning. The people that make the biggest mistake are the people like you mentioned who put one person in charge of their whole business, and then that person puts in their 2 weeks notice, and it sets them back 6 months. Or the people that do the one-on-one training and spend their time, which again value your own time, and then have nothing for the worker to look back on. And then if that worker does quit, they have to do the one-on-one training again. So make sure you diversify your team so that if someone leaves, they're not replaceable, and make sure you have the training and the systems in writing so it takes up less of your time that you should value highly.
And that's a good one. I like that advice is to yeah. So even if you're saying even if you're training someone, have some way of recording that or some notes for that, so that way, if they quit, you can just bring on the next person, and that work's already done.
Exactly. You want to try to reduce whatever. Just imagine that any person in your company could quit at any given moment. Even someone who you're best friends with, someone who's been there for years, anyone can always quit. How replaceable are the people on your team? And if they're not, you have to work over time to make them less or more and more replaceable.
That's a good way of looking at that, and I like that. And so, where can people go to find out more about you and about FreeUp and all this cool stuff?
Yes, you can check out freeup.com. We also have a blog where we're always talking about e-commerce, hiring remote workers, and all the stuff that goes with it, managing, building a culture, hiring, training, and all that kind of stuff. Right on our website, freeup.com, you can actually book a meeting with me if you want to talk about your needs, or you can sign up as a FreeUp client. It's free. There's no upfront payment. We're pretty much there to give you workers that you pay hourly for as much or as little as you want. It's super easy to sign up, really easy to set up a meeting with me or one of my assistants. And yeah, I mean, we'd love to talk to you about your story and how we can help you.
Awesome. And that is FreeUp with three E's, right?
Yep, 30 stands for e-commerce.
The what's oh okay that finally okay, so that's freeup.com, just to make sure if people are listening and they go to freeup.com, they're like, where's the website? It's freeup.com, and that's the blog, and that's the link to get the meeting with you and all that cool stuff. So I mean, I'm really appreciative of you coming by, Nathan, and talking to us about this thing that a lot of people, it sounds like people kind of do it incorrectly, or maybe they go one of the two extremes, and maybe they dread doing it. But it sounds like any business that wants to scale, or anyone who wants to have more free time or make more money or get to that next level, needs to get into some kind of outsourcing. And it sounds like this free up service gets around a lot of the usual problems that happen with outsourcing. So I'm really glad that you came by and set us straight and explained your thought process and your story. So thanks for stopping by the show today, Nathan.
Definitely, and you're very welcome. Anyone that signs up, and I'll send you an affiliate link, or anyone that you drops your name when they sign up will get a $10 credit towards their account. So free $10 worth of work. You can try us out and see for yourself.
Aren't WordPress sites great? You can click a button and create your site. No FTP, coding, or designing required. Want to change the look and feel of your site? Click a button. Want to add plugins for better search rankings, faster load times, custom CSS, headers and footers, added security, pop-ups, email capture, and more? But there's a problem. WordPress sites go out of date. WordPress plugins go out of date. Do you remember your passwords for every site? Do you remember where all your sites are? Do you have time to log in to each and every site to update? I didn't think so. There's a better way, and it's called Website Remote. Website Remote is the tool you'll use to monitor all your sites, click a single button to update everything, and log into any of your sites without a password. Get started with your 99-cent trial right now at websiteremote.com/trial.